Thank you very much, Florian. I'm going to share my screen and then I'll be also starting my presentation here. And welcome also from my side. Thanks, Florian, having me for the session about the integration cockpit. And yeah, it's a quite lengthy topic with strategy alignment, insights, and with the focus of SAP Integration Suite, of course. Let me introduce you to the product first. Yeah, what we are doing, what is the core concept behind, what is the idea, and then dive into the main topic for today regarding the governance topic, the insights, the strategy alignment topics. Yeah. So a few words from my side. Adam Kivon, ex-SAP, 9 years with a short overlap, Florian, right? Book author, trainer, whatever I've done. And Integration Excellence is not only the name of our podcast, but also the name of our blog. Yeah, and the website you can see here, Integration Excellence. So from time to time, I'm also sharing some information, some content, especially in the SAP integration area, which is where I feel home still, right? So that's what I can recommend to you. And today is about our flagship product, the Integration Cockpit. So basically, what is it? What is it about? First and foremost, it's a central place for all integrations, a new home for all your interfaces, in your company, in your landscape. And you can call it inventory or catalog or repository, whatever. Some people call it interface asset management as a topic. That's basically what we try to achieve. Yeah, plus a documentation area and a governance area. So it's clearly an IT solution, IT targeted solution, as a SaaS product running on BTP, running in the SAP environment. And what does it do? So basically, this is the architectural picture. So typically we have the application layer, SAP systems, being on-prem, private cloud, public cloud, non-SAP. So we are still dividing the world into SAP and non-SAP. Sometimes this happens point to point, which is not the ideal approach. But typically we have an integration layer on top, and that is in many cases for many SAP environments. Of course, the integration suite of SAP, but realistically said, there can be more. Historically, there can be still PO around, but there can be also other competitors which are in place in the landscape. And the idea is basically to auto-discover from the integration layer and also from selected backends, from selected applications, like from SAP ABAP backends, to auto-discover the interface configurations and sometimes also the interface traffic, bring it into the cockpit, to have a central inventory with the potential to have a documentation, but also to feed the documentation and to perform governance steps on this to, of course, increase the quality, support transformations. Why, I won't explain why we need to have an inventory. I think every company having more than 100 interfaces exactly knows what it is. And managing this in Excel manually is the worst choice, I would say. And then, of course, with this data we are feeding, or with this data we are collecting, we are also able to feed other systems in the landscape. Of course, also LeanIX, but there are also direct connections between SAP integration technologies and LeanIX. So that's not, a must, but in general, we are not only, passing it through, but we are, working on the data, enriching it. I'll show in a minute what it means. And also Confluence, for example, can be as a target where we can enrich existing pages or create new pages in Confluence where we define and explain the tech data we are collecting out of the landscape. And basically, maybe to explain one concept we are using in the integration cockpit, which is so-called end-to-end integrations. Yeah, so typically, if you speak about APIs, yeah, you might have an API in another backend, for example, a SOAP API or a data API, and you might, shield this or expose this through an API management, yeah, as a gateway, which is going through a proxy, maybe then through a product, and then through an application. So this is typically done in API management. Then you might have your integration platform, yeah, going through an integration flow, consuming this this API proxy application, and then you might even have been feeding the data through a queue or a topic from another broker and then from another system. So this is just explaining how complex theoretically an integration can be nowadays. It's not only one interface connecting two systems through one broker or through one gateway or through one integration layer component, but it can be a combination of several. Yeah? And sometimes it's even that way that we have a direct connection to APIs calling each other, and sometimes we have just an iFlow, like a cloud integration, fetching maybe a file from an SFTP folder, doing some stuff, and then transmitting it somewhere to another system. And all those orange elements here on the page is what we call interface. Yeah, so we are auto-discovering the interfaces from the landscape. Yeah, and showing them both in their, with their technical details. Yeah, the name. Maybe who was the person last changing it, and some administrative content. And if possible, also reading traffic data, yeah, like how many times was it executed in which period, and which with success rate, something like that. And on top, we also see this combined sequence of interfaces as end-to-end integration. So those are the two terms we have in the cockpit, which is the interface and the end-to-end integration. Yeah, so that's I wanted to make sure that this is clear, that we are not only looking into fetching the technical artifacts, but also the sequence of the interfaces. And for those of you who know cloud integration, you know that an interface on cloud integration is very rarely only one iFlow that has been executed. It's many times a sequence of iFlows. Yeah. It's iFlows that are connected through Process Direct or through JMS, and they are using dispatcher iFlows, or maybe the pipeline concept or the TPM. Yeah, so there are different ways of connecting integration flows inside cloud integration. So what is the approach? What is the overall idea? Yeah, how do we feed this? So first of all, we are collecting the data. Yeah, this is the import. We are collecting the data, and this is mainly done through a pull. Yeah, so we configure the connection to the systems where we're getting the data from. Sometimes we get a push. Yeah, so from PO, for example, we still get a push because we didn't want to make a remote call to PO. Sometimes it's not well reachable. So for this, we have a push approach. But also the integration cockpit itself is API-fied. Yeah, so you can push even your own API data or interface information from wherever. Yeah, from maybe from a CI/CD pipeline of your microservice or from wherever. And then we are transforming the data. So basically, we are standardizing, we are harmonizing them, bring it to as a centralized generic data model. You are then able to enrich the data through properties and tags. Yeah. So, for example, tagging could be like, to which domain does it belong? To which region does it belong? To which brand or whatever. And properties can be something like where is the documentation located, or maybe an URL, or what is the global identifier for this interface, or other things that might be enrichable. RACI information like who's responsible from a business side, who's responsible from a technical side, and so on. This can be also done here. And then connecting means bringing the interfaces into this end-to-end view, connecting them, reading data from the EAM, for example, from LeanIX, to get a list of all applications possible and then map against those applications. And also reading from a backlog. Backlog can be a Jira ticket, so we are connecting with Jira, but backlog can also be the SAP integration assessment, where we have our tech stack decision made, and then when there is a technology decision at the end of the process of the integration assessment, we also might want to see this as an upcoming interface in the cockpit. So it's not only technical interfaces, but also interface information from other sources. And then we have the export step, the documentation, and then we can also export towards EAM, towards LeanIX, towards Confluence, to update or create pages. And we are also thinking about exporting data to ServiceNow nowadays. And this is the topic of today. We want to analyze as well. So we can work on the data, we can operate on the data, we can perform reporting, we can perform checks, and this is what it's all about. So there are three aspects. The biggest aspect is the inventory itself. Replacing your manually managed Excel files into a SaaS solution that is automatically fetching the data from the environment. The option to push the data to a documentation, to Confluence pages first and foremost, and then to perform governance steps on that with regards to reporting and checks. So before I'm jumping into demo and also showing how the solution looks like, maybe for each of the aspects, inventory, documentation, and governance, a few more slides. So inventory, basically, we can see here on the left, so what are the sources? So we have here all the technical sources we are able to connect to. And of course, mainly we focused, and this is also our legacy, the SAP Integration Suite, but we also use Microsoft Azure Integration Service, MuleSoft we have connected, Kafka we are going to, and others are coming. So in general, this is not limited to a specific technology. And from a backend point of view, as we know SAP quite well, this has been the first data source from a backend perspective, because there are a lot of integration techniques inside SAP systems. It's not just a pure API from the outside. So I've explained basically everything around that, what it does. I've explained the end-to-end integrations. So what is maybe important to mention is that for SAP Cloud integration, we are generating them. In addition, you're always free to model them manually, to create them manually out of the existing interfaces we have. So you get a suggestion which interfaces you can choose. But we are working on a generated proposal where we have predecessor and successor information with URLs and host names and so on. So we are trying to as well auto-generate cross-component, across the components, so from API management to cloud integration, from cloud integration to SAP backend and so on, to generate the end-to-end integrations automatically. And then we can enrich the data with our own data at the moment manually. So you can just go into the object and create the content manually. In the future, we will have upload mechanisms that you can, first of all, download the cockpit content into an Excel sheet, enrich it with properties and tags maybe, and then upload it again so that you don't have to maintain things manually, but you can do block-wise adjustments and block-wise changes. And yeah, and then of course, but this is more helping sometimes to better understand or to explain the documentation better, to visualize things, not only from one system to another through one interface, but here through a sequence of interfaces in terms of end-to-end integrations. Yeah, you can see, for example, here that the two systems are connected through an end-to-end integration that consists of 4 different interface steps inside. Yeah. And so how does it look like? When we go into the solution, so basically when you start the dashboard, the overview, it calculates some figures. That's why it takes a bit to load. There are some KPIs that are calculated. There are some counts that are performed and some stats that are being on the fly executed. And we can see some KPIs. We can see some, for example, here some top 5 usage topics. We will go through them one by one. Yeah, but this is just that you get a feeling how it looks like, and the core of it is basically here the total count. So we have here a total of 1136 interfaces that are in production. Yeah, so this is a filter on everything that is in the production, and also 9 end-to-end integrations. Yeah. If we want to see everything, we go to the inventory, and we have a kind of grouped approach of seeing non-prod on the left, production on the right, and then we can see them by interface type. Yeah, so for example, here we have API management, proxies, we have cloud integration, iFlows, and then we can see, okay, from which data source does it come from? What is the total count? And we can then basically navigate into each of them, see what they are doing. Yeah, so see what they are doing. We can get some of the. So this is basically the standardized data model. Yeah, and then you can see, okay, this is using a set of adapters. It is using some authentication mechanisms. It has some calculated values and some data that is simply copied over. Yeah. And what we can also do is here to tag it. We can basically assign it to a region, for example. We can add properties, like for example, who is responsible from the integration team. This is Adam, and maybe from another area, from a functional team, this is I don't know, Sheila. And then we can enrich the data basically either manually, or there will be an option to upload this in the mass upload. And then we can also navigate into the raw data, see how the object looks like originally. Yeah, so with all the connections we have, with some externalized parameters we have, with some scripts maybe inside, and endpoints that are given, and then even with the graphical BPMN that is given by the solution itself. Yeah, so it depends on the source. And yeah, I mean, I won't jump through all of the aspects right now, but maybe also from a landscape point of view, this is just highlighting, which integration layer components are in place, in use in your environment, which systems are in place, and which system is using which integration, as how many integrations. We have assignments to business objects. Those are typically business objects that are imported from LinaX or from any other EAM, or can be created manually, But this is also an option you can use, and then you can see also an overview of all the tag values with the count, and how it looks like, so that you have a clustered approach, how things are being assigned, So that's basically the inventory component. Then I will jump over EAM integration because I think this is not key of today, that we are able to read data and also export data to EAM. Documentation, I will also skip. It's as I mentioned, it's the possibility to update existing pages with some technical information, basically from the data model. Yeah, so from the interfaces we can see. Yeah, for example, if I jump into one now, so basically what we can see here in this case is what we would update into the documentation. All this basic data, properties, tags, and everything. And now jumping to the the most important topic for today, the governance topics, is basically the 4 KPIs, as we call them. Robustness, complexity, frequency, and timing. And I will explain a bit more in detail what they mean. Yeah, so this is just an overview. Also, 2 elements or 2 KPIs that help us to understand, what adapters are used inside an iFlow or inside an API proxy in the integration suite, and also which authentication mechanisms are being used. Is it certificate? Is it basic? Is it no authentication whatsoever? And then we have traffic. So wherever possible, we also fetch the traffic, where we can see, okay, how many messages did we process? What was the ratio of success and failure? What was the performance, if we get any performance data? And then we are planning also to do some cost allocation based on the traffic, based on the volume. So that if required, you can make decisions who has to pay most of the IT costs related to integration, depending on the usage. So that's one aspect. Governance reporting. Governance checks is another aspect. We just started with this, so the only check we have implemented so far is the landscape check for cloud integration, where we are able to compare artifacts across the landscape. So here is a screenshot where we can see, okay, there is a mismatch in the version across the landscape, or there is a mismatch within the tenant. So between design time and runtime. So maybe someone forgot to deploy the most recent version, or someone forgot to transport the most recent version, or it's simply work in progress. But that shows, even if you have a perfectly working transport management system or a great CI/CD pipeline in place or whatsoever, it still can happen that things are not aligned, and then this landscape check helps to align and verify if things are working well. And we are working already on the API proxy versions comparison as well. We will do some runtime checks, analyzing traffic, analyzing performance, and report on anomalies, not in the way SAP is doing for API management, which is AI based, which is a fully automated anomaly detection mechanism, but it will be rather that you can register specific interfaces, and then whenever they behave out of their defined boundaries, you will get a notification, or you will get, first of all, a list of objects to be where you have to look at. And then also some governance aspects, like are the naming conventions correct? So you will be able to define naming convention patterns by interface type, and then follow up if they are not matching. Excluding the SAP standard, of course, but for the content you have created yourself, you would then have to follow the rules, or external consultants, if they work on the system, they have to pass the quality gates of correct naming conventions. So it's, in the end, it's not only about creating a nicely up to date inventory, with a repository of your interfaces, and then, make sure that it is there, and then you can plan, the next RISE migration or the next S/4HANA implementation or the next PO migration. But it's in general, we see this, the challenges of permanent transformation mode, right now. So this is not going away. Even if we are all on RISE, if we all on Integration Suite, transformations will happen all over the place, even in the future. And then, having a good insight, a good understanding of what is going on, and being able to look into the landscape, into the inventory is really important to improve quality, make sure that the stability of the system is given, and we can maximize transparency. So how is it done? So for the data sources that are relevant for the Integration Suite, what we usually do is we create them here. So those are the 4 types we have for Integration Suite. We have API management, we have cloud integration, we have integration assessment, and event mesh currently is only available for the, let's say, a standalone version of BTP event mesh. So there are 3 event mesh flavors. Let's say one is the good old standalone event mesh. Then there is EMIS, EMEIS, so the event mesh as part of the Integration Suite. They didn't have an API yet, so SAP didn't provide a management API for that yet. But I think it's announced for Q3. We are in Q3 now, so let's hope that it's going to be the beginning of Q3 and not the end, or postponed. And then we have advanced event mesh. And advanced event mesh, we treat it as Solace, because we are also using the Solace SAMP API, the technical API. So basically, it is all going through the Solace tenant, directly fetching the data, the queues, the configuration, the topic assignments, and everything that is fetched from there. And sometimes we can configure, which features are to be activated. Sometimes not, because it's only reading the configuration without calculating or analyzing anything. Or for Solace, for example, we also don't fetch the traffic information right now. So we only get the static configuration. For Integration Suite, we get also the traffic for API management and cloud integration. So that's for the configuration. So how does it look like basically? I mean, this is the biggest effort we always have in the setup. Going here into settings. I think I was kicked out. So basically we go to the settings, connectivity, and we have a list of data sources. And then we basically create all of our data sources in here. For example, here is an example. It's our CPI Neo tenant, where we can, define which features are activated, which are relevant. And then we have scheduled tasks that are running periodically to fetch the configuration, fetch the runtime data, and then to copy over this information, both configuration and runtime, mixed into the inventory with regards to standardization and harmonization of the data into our data model. And then going through the 2 aspects. So we have runtime insights as promised and design time insights as promised. And both serve the purpose of aligning towards the strategy. But integration strategy is a big area, and we are not able to address everything about integration strategy, but some aspects are quite relevant and quite good. So, for example, robustness helps us to understand out of the traffic, and it analyzes typically the last 30 days of traffic. How was the success rate? So for cloud integration, for example, there are messages that are successful, that are completed in that sense. Some are failed, some are abandoned, canceled, whatsoever. But we calculate the completed ones versus the failed ones. the abandoned and canceled and discarded we ignore. And then you have a quite high number. So ideally, this is, if you look at it in the overview, you have something above 90, 95, ideally something around 97, 8% of success rate in your production environment. So which is quite good. And that also includes API management proxies. So if you have proxy calls that are going through successfully or not successfully. So same things apply with regards to robustness. And I will show also how you can configure so the color you can see here, the green color can be configured. So the thresholds, when should it be green? Should it be green after 97? Until then it should be yellow, and then when it should be red, you can freely configure this. Decommissioning is something we are having based on the last traffic. So for example, when we bring our interfaces interfaces we have discovered, and then the traffic we have loaded for the interfaces, we have an information about the last traffic. And then we can see, okay, when was the last traffic? If it was more than 30 days, this is also configurable. If it was more than 30 days, it's supposed to be potentially decommissioned. In many cases, it's much more. Many customers treat it as 90 days as to be decommissioned, but because sometimes interfaces can be executed very, very rarely. But this is a quite good indicator of knowing, okay, this was either like here, never running. So we don't have traffic for this interface at all. Why should we keep it? So we can simplify our landscape. So reduce the complexity in that sense. And this is usually important and interesting in our production environment. So we can see here the number here, the 808, is for the production environment. It is usually much higher for development or test environments, because you might have a iFlow deployed, and then the iFlow is it was not running in dev or in queue, and then you have a much higher decommissioning number, right? But you can then also filter and then reduce it, and then you can remove the filter. You can analyze specific data sources, like show me something like here, for example, and then you see, okay, traffic was last 17th of this or whatever. So that's what we have as a decommissioning list based on the last traffic we have. Then frequency is something we have defined, and I know the term is not perfect, but we thought it's a good idea to have a classification of a frequency from low to very high. So that means if we have interfaces that are executed, for example, here very high, more than 5,000 messages per week is something what we treat as very high. And this is the ranges we have. Less than 50, between 50 and 500, 500 and 5,000. We are thinking about making this configurable. So far we haven't had any complaints, but we thought it's a good idea to segment your traffic and look into them. And then if you have interfaces that are super important with a high frequency, you might have to watch out for them more carefully or not. And timing is something we don't have a UI for that yet. So for example, here on frequency, we can click on it. We can see, okay, what is the content? We can then filter by environment. So for example, for production, we only have this. We just have one very high, and then most of them are low. For timing, we don't have a page yet, but it's going to be added, I think, next week. But we have already the numbers and the generated values. So things like weekdays is, for example, a timing, And here are the other values. So for example, we have daily, we have weekdays, we have weekly, monthly, or random. If we don't find the proper pattern when an interface is being executed, it gets random. But in most of the cases, we either have something like, weekdays, it runs maybe from Monday to Friday, or it runs, a couple of times per week, or a couple of times per month. Yeah. But then, if it runs irregularly, then we have like random timing. So those are KPIs that help, or insights that help us to understand better, the traffic related data. And this is how we configure it. So basically here in the settings and the configuration, we have a lot of things which we can be setting up. So for example, we can define our own properties on interface level, our own properties on object level, on system level. We can also add in the properties, and we can define here for the dashboard, we can define, okay, what is the threshold for the robustness? Yeah, when do we start to see this green? Yeah, everything above 95%, and it gets red below 50. Yeah, and we can clearly change that. We can say, okay, now green, it's really at 97, and red, it becomes already at 89. Anything a bit in between will be yellow, and then it's going to be calculated as that. Yeah, so that we can go here, and now it would appear as yellow because it's not reaching 97 yet. Yeah, so simple as that. And same things apply for the decommissioning list. Yeah, we also have the threshold. Yeah, what is a value to be shown? Everything above 100 is red, everything below 30 is green, and everything in between is yellow. Yeah, so yellow is not configurable because it's obviously the gap between. And then you can set up the days, as well, which is configurable. So we try to make things as configurable as possible. And then for the design time, well, that is not related to traffic, not related to the throughput or whatsoever. It's just analyzing the integration content itself. And here we have, as a first one, complexity, showing us, is the complexity low, medium, high, or very high? Which means for each type of interface, it's different. So for cloud integration, it depends on the amount of elements we have in the iFlow, mainly. So this is the main KPI. But also, even if it's below 5, it might be, it might contain a mapping or whatsoever. So then it's treated as medium. But then, if you are above 15 or even above 30 elements in the BPMN picture, this is clearly very high complexity. And you might want to have your strategy to reduce the complexity as good as you can. To separate the iFlows into several more medium or even low interfaces. Low is just throughput, so it's not really realistic. Pass through, I mean. But it could be a strategy to say, I want to make sure that everything is medium, sometimes maybe high, but never very high. So this could be also part of a strategy. But others can say like, well, sometimes it is how it is, and then we have like 60 elements in the BPMN whatsoever. And for API management, it's basically based on the amount of policies. So we are not looking into the content of the policy, like, what is done. Is it an authentication policy? It's a traffic management policy. Is it, some key value or whatsoever? We just the pure numbers are relevant here. So we check like, is it pass through? Less than 2, or is it more? Or does it even have more than 10 policies? More than 10 policies we already see as very high. Maybe this is, again, something with a potential to be configurable, as it is a quite simple KPI. But for now, this is quite static. So it's hard-coded actually right now in our landscape. Then adapter usage. So analyzing the content and the iFlows and also the API proxies and other technologies. But looking at Integration Suite, we mainly have the iFlows and the proxies. So looking into them and getting out, which adapter techniques are used, and then we can configure each of them as good fit, partial fit, or no fit. Yeah? According to ISAM a little bit, this is the classification we were choosing. Yeah, but that you can decide, okay, I want to make part of my strategy is file-based integration is bad. So anything that has something to do with FTP, file SFTP is a bad choice. Yeah, it's a no fit. Yeah, and some others we can configure to be partially okay. Yeah, IDOC might be okay for the moment, but we won't have it. We don't want to have it in the future. And then you can clearly configure which adapters are good, acceptable, or bad. Yeah. And same applies for authentication. Yeah. So here the list is as well quite long because it's not harmonized. Yeah. It's just the values we get out of the products. Yeah. So sometimes basic is called, it's written in uppercase. Sometimes it's upper camel case. Sometimes it's lowercase. So it really depends, but everything can be mapped and aligned. And then we have, the strategy fit alignment for those as well. So for complexity, we don't have a strategy fit, yeah, because we don't really see it yet so heavily. So people can still use the results as they are. But for adapter usage and authentication, it's clearly something that we show even on the start page, right? Where we can see, okay, this is the more green we have, the better we are, right? And then, yeah, last but not least, the configuration for the strategy fit as well, where we can, define value by value for now. You have to list all of the values that are potentially possible, and then, this is getting analyzed and then shown in the overview. Yeah. So here in the reporting, if we navigate to it, we can see here the adapter usage. We can see also here, we can see, okay, what are the top 5 adapters used? We can then also see here, based on interface level, yeah, so which interface is using which adapters, or as well, which end-to-end integrations are using which adapters, yeah. And yeah, that was actually my main content for today. I was having the feeling in between that I'm a bit running out of time, but I think I made up some time. So I would say we can open the Q&A part now.